It's 3 a.m. and I'm sitting in my home recording studio, and I thought I would speak about the healing powers of the Grail. I'm writing a book on that subject. Here it goes. First of all, you have to know the Grail story. What is the Grail story? Okay, here it is in its essence. There was a young knight named Perceval, which means the piercer of the veil. What veil? Well, the veil that separates our natural sight, the sight of the physical world, and the spiritual sight, the insight, the veil that hides a deeper reality. Percival decided that he was going to go on a quest. He wanted to be a knight, but he already was. He just didn't know it. So he took off and he had various adventures. But I'd like to cut right to the chase, as they say. He eventually found himself a guest in an enchanted castle. He was there in a large room with the Fisher King, as he was called, the king who was wounded. And we're all wounded in this world. So regardless of our gender, king, queen, whatever, we are the Fisher King. We are the wounded one. We're also the other character in this enchanted castle, Perceval, the young one, somewhat foolish in nature, but always on the quest, looking to comprehend, looking to understand. So Perceval is there with the wounded king. They're sitting in this large room, which has a huge fireplace going. Remember, it's a castle, and those things are pretty drafty. And the king decides that he's going to serve Perceval a pretty good meal. Well, it is a pretty good meal. It's probably the most sumptuous feast ever. There's course after course after course. So as they're sitting there, the wounded king, hoping that Perceval will ask the right question and help him absolve himself of his wounds, hoping that Perceval, the young one who is questing, would have some kind of insight so as to help the king, the older one, become whole. And Perceval, he is sitting there all entertained by the castle and by the food. And he's just wondering what's going on. But meantime, he's enjoying the physical part of it for sure. Well, before the first course, something unusual happens. To Perceval's right, there comes a procession and moves across the room and exits to the left into another room where something is hidden, not seen. Now, this procession starts out in this way. There's a lance borne by a squire, and at the top of the lance, at the tip top of the lance, there's blood that is oozing from its point, and it drops onto the hands of the one that's carrying it. Behind this, there are two young squires. I call them the squires of uncertainty. Two young guys. Each one is carrying, quote, a candelabra with at least 10 candles. See what I mean by uncertainty? They don't even know how many candles they're carrying, nor do we, because they don't know, so we don't know either. So here they come. Now, right behind these three comes the Grail, borne by a beautiful young woman, Wisdom. The Grail shines a light that puts out or obscures the physical light, the light of the fire, the light of the candles, the uncertain candles, and just blazes with glory. Well, of course, Perceval notices this. He looks at it, and right behind the Grail is a young woman carrying a platter. Now, the Grail is usually represented as a cup, though there are some learned disagreements about this. But I'm going with the cup understanding. It's the cup, followed by a platter, ordinary stuff, a cup and a plate. So they come through and they disappear into the room over at Perceval's left. Well, Perceval, he sees all this good food. He's been out on the road all this time on his horse. He's hungry. So he chows down and on the first course and thinks, I'll ask about this peculiar Grail procession later in the morning. I'll do it in the morning. I'll do it later. Right now, I got food to eat. So the first course is served, and he and the king eat, and doesn't say they talked about anything. Then here comes the Grail again. Now this time it just says it's the Grail coming through. The rest of the procession is not mentioned. Well, I'm going with that. It was just the Grail. The Grail comes through shining its light again. Powerful light. Well, Perceval, of course, he interrupts his food, his being in the physical world, and looks at the spiritual world. And so it says whatever he says in his heart, like, oh my God, or what? And whatever he's saying, but doesn't say anything out loud again. Well, this happens several times. The Grail comes through between each course and then disappears into the room over to the left there. Well, each time Perceval thinks, well, I'll just wait till in the morning and then I'll ask about this. So we have here really 4 characters that I'd like to focus on in this book that I'm writing. And I'll talk about them in a later video, but here they are. One is Perceval, of course, the young one, the young masculine energy. The other is the wounded king, which we all are, the one who has been through life and bears all its scars, especially the scars of the heart, looking for redemption from each other. The old one wants the young one to help him out here, and the young one wants the old one to give him the scoop, the skinny, the real deal, So there they are, at some kind of stalemate. The third character is the Grail itself, a powerful character. And the fourth one is the one that's in the other room. The one that's in the other room, the hidden